Before y'all watch this video, I wanted to clear something up about many of my posts. They really apply to, quote, normal kids. And by that, I mean kids that don't have significant heart conditions, significant lung conditions, significant neurologic conditions, some sort of significant developmental delay, something like that. So all of my behavioral and my medical posts apply to kids that don't have some sort of significant special need. So just keep that in mind. Hey, y'all. I wanted to make a medical post about something that is near and dear to all of our hearts, fever. Something that makes parents worry and can make us, as doctors, worry because the parents are so worried, but I wanted to kind of dispel some myths about it. First off, some facts about fever. Fever is really just our body's normal immune system being activated to fight off whatever illness it is. So fever is a natural response to illness. Our immune system actually works better at a higher temperature. So it is God's way of helping us fight off germs. We typically, in little kids, especially infants, like rectal temperatures. They're the most accurate. We generally consider anything under 100.4 to be normal, and there is a wide range of normal. 98.6 is what people are familiar with, but some kids run lower and some kids run higher, and generally, 100.4 is kind of where we draw the line to something actual fever. Under the arm temperatures and oral temperatures are fine too. They're not quite as accurate as rectal, but in older kids, oral would be better. And if you take an axillary under the arm temperature, you just kind of need to maybe take it several times, and probably going to end up rounding up on something like that. Our temperature does fluctuate, around the course of the day. The biggest thing about fever is that it's a symptom. It's not a disease in and of itself. It's just a symptom that something else is going on. Some more facts about fever. Teething does not cause fever. It might cause 100.4, 100.2, something like that, but not real high fever. Although I will say I've seen tons of kids where teething is the only thing I can find with their 103 fever, but it's still not going to be from teething. It's from some other viral infection that just happens to be going on at the same time. The height of the fever really doesn't correlate well with the degree of the illness. A lot of kids with flu run 103, 104. I saw one with 106 last week. And even that doesn't mean that, that's the worst case of flu ever, or that child's got, some horrible condition. The height of the fever doesn't really mean that 106 is a more serious case than 102 fever, or of the flu or whatever it is that might be causing the fever. The way your child looks is a lot more important than the height of the fever. So we always tell parents, get that fever down, and then give us a call back and let us know how he looks when the fever's down, because they all look terrible when the fever's up. Fever from illness is not dangerous. Fever is a symptom of a disease, but it's not in and of itself the disease. So children really are not going to be harmed by the fever. We certainly treat fever. We give Tylenol and Motrin and all that kind of stuff to make them feel better, but it's not to save their life. It's not to save their brain. It's not to save their kidneys. None of that happens. None of that is damaged with fever. Kids that are locked in a car in the middle of the summertime, the temperature can be certainly damaging, but it's not from an illness. It's from some ridiculous, heat stroke situation related to extreme temperatures, not just fever. it doesn't have to be treated. If you're more of a holistic type person, let the fever run its course. Your child will get better sooner if you don't treat it. Most people do just because they want their kids to feel better. There is a very small percentage of people that have, or kids that have febrile seizures related to fever. We don't like those, certainly. We don't want kids to have those. But those kids actually do perfectly fine in the long run. They're not related to seizure disorders. They're not at higher risk of anything down the road. They don't cause brain damage. They don't cause anything other than they scare the bejeebers out of a parent. So I'm not saying we want to see them, but we don't live in fear. Doctors do not live in fear of febrile seizures. They're more of a nuisance problem related to fever and anxiety for the parents than they are for an actual dangerous condition. Those usually happen on the first high spike of a fever so frequently the parents don't even know that the child's sick. And they go to the ER because of the seizure, and they have 104 fever, and so that's kind of how they usually play out. 90% of those occur before age 3, and they almost never occur after age 5. Fever can do lots of things to your body. It can increase your heart rate. It gives you fast breathing. Makes kids lethargic and act weird and malaise and lay around. And in higher fevers, they can have hallucinations. They can wake up in the middle of the night with these crazy dreams. Some kids vomit a lot with fever. A lot of kids have chills, and of course they lose their appetite, and they don't sleep, and they're fussy. So there are lots of reasons to treat it, but still none of those are dangerous. They're just more problems that you don't want your kids to suffer through. We use lots of Tylenol and Motrin, acetaminophen, and ibuprofen. Those are equally as effective. Tylenol can be dosed every 4 hours, Motrin every 6 hours. You can actually use them both at the same time. That's a common surprise to parents that you can give them both at the same time, and so that they're both working in their system at the same time. So it's not one or the other; it's both and. Some people do lukewarm baths. That's kids don't like that, but so I wouldn't overdo that. We do not need to be bundling the kids up or bathing them in alcohol or something like that. You do not need to take your child to the emergency room just because of a fever. We hear that all the time, that he had 106 fever, so we just went straight to the emergency room. Get that fever down, and I bet your kid will feel a lot better. If he doesn't, then it might be appropriate to go to the emergency room if he's confused or just not significantly improved with his fever comes down. So the take-home points is that fever is part of your immune system. Fever is not dangerous. Treating the fever is not mandatory since it's not dangerous. But feel free to treat it if you feel necessary, and your kid is pretty miserable, which they frequently are. You can use both Tylenol and Motrin, and most importantly, your child's appearance is a whole lot more important than the height of the fever. So that's my take on fever. Hopefully it helps you guys out. Thanks. See you next time.